Hi everyone, it's Intang Mayumi. I have 3 cards using one stamp set for you today. For this month's collaboration challenge, we are using this stamp set and it's called the Ink Road Stamps Ban Intended. I pull out my Stamp Perfect to use for stamping and I ink up my image using Versamark ink. After I stamp the first image, I'm going to emboss it with Ranger embossing powder, and I'm using coffee filter here to catch the excess powder, and then I'll just funnel that back into the container. I'm stamping another one and just flip the paper so I don't have to move the stamp from the Stamp Perfect. And I'm going to emboss this one with the tan rose gold embossing powder. For the third one, I used VersaFine Onyx Black ink and emboss it with Wow clear embossing powder. I used this plastic container for my clear embossing powder because the clear embossing powder is the one I always use, so I don't have to use coffee filter for that. And I'm going to melt all the powder using my heat tool. I did all the stamping and embossing of this image first so it will be ready when I create my cards. If you are new to my channel, this collaboration challenge is 3 cards using one stamp set with my Crafty BFF Cherryl Sabado here on YouTube. Make sure to check her collaboration video for this month. We do this collaboration challenge every month and pick one stamp set that we have in our stash and make 3 cards out of that stamp set. I will leave her link in my description down below. If you click the link, it will take you to her channel or collaboration video. I use my zig markers to color the ban intended stamp, and the first color is gray for the hair and blush for the skin. The second one is scarlet red for the hair and blush and flesh color for the skin. And the third one is light brown in blush and pale pink for the skin. I use my craft knife to cut the intricate part of the image first and use my soft touch Fiskars scissor to fussy cut around the image. For my first card, I used one of the pattern paper from the Christmas Glam by Craftsmith. I think I got this paper from Michael's years ago. I use my Fiskars trimmer to cut the paper to size that I want, and I'm cutting it to 5.5 inches by 4 1/4 inches. I'm now going to die cut the paper that I cut with Gina Marie Design Stitch Rectangle die set. I'm going to use Action Wobble on this image right here, and I cut that Action Wobble to fit on the back of this image. I colored another one and I'm going to fussy cut this one that has Action Wobble, and I just want the head and the hair, so I'm just fussy cutting those without the skin. After I fussy cut this one, I will adhere it on top of the other image. So her head is the only one moving and she looks like she's enjoying the party and dancing with her head moving. This ban intended stamp set is so much fun to create a card with, and you can do so much with this image. After I fussy cut and adhered it, I'm using my Memento black marker to just go around those white areas on the edge so it looks seamless. So I'm just trying it out and see if it's moving right. So I think it's working. And now I can adhere it on my panel. and I'm using just a little bit of the glossy accent on the back of this image here and adhere it on my panel. My camera was not recording when I adhere my panel on my card base, and as you can see, I added half of a circle on top of my card. I die cut a silver paper using one of the stitch circle die set that I have and adhere it where the light is shining on the pattern paper. I was trying to make it look like this is a disco ball, and because I don't have a stamp or die for this disco ball, so that is the closest I can do. This die set is from Concord 9 and it's called Mixed Tape. I will use the Sentiment You Rock and also the music notes. I die cut this with my scraps of dark blue shimmer cardstock and I'm going to adhere them on a vellum, and I use the negative part of the die cut so my letters will align perfectly, and I'm using glossy accent to adhere them on the vellum, and just carefully remove the negative die cut. And I will just trim the vellum using my Fiskars trimmer. After I trim the sentiment, I'm going to cut it in half and place it on each side of the image on the card. And I'm using glossy accent to adhere them. I use just a little bit of glue, just enough to adhere the sentiment because I don't want the glue oozing out and showing on the vellum. I die cut the music notes from different colors of glitter cardstock, and I will also adhere them on the card. And I'm using my tweezer here so I can place them where I want them to go. For the inside of my card, I die cut another panel using the Gina Marie Design Stitch Rectangle die set, and I'm going to use this Create a Smile Vinyl Greetings stamp set. I pull out my Stamp Perfect again to use it for stamping the image, and I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink, and I'm going to stamp this a few times to get good impression. There is a sentiment that says happy birthday to you, and it fits perfectly in the inside of the vinyl. I will also stamp it using the same black ink. I will color the middle part of the vinyl with my alcohol ink, and it's the GB4 color. And adhere this panel in the inside of my card. And our first card is finished. So this card is the one that has action wobble. For the second card, I'm going to use this Mama Elephant brush strokes stamp set. And I'm going to stamp two of the images repeatedly on my panel to create a background. The inks I use are Worn Lipstick, Abandoned Coral, and Pink Raspberry Distress Oxide inks. After I'm done stamping my background, I die cut a vellum using Stitch Circle die set, and I also partial die cut the lower part of one of the bun intended image so it will perfectly fit on the vellum stitch circle. I also die cut the background panel and another panel that will go in the inside of the card using Gina Marie Design Stitch Rectangle die set. I can now adhere my image on top of the vellum, circle vellum using foam tape. And I use double-sided tape just on the part where glue or tape doesn't show from the vellum. And just peel the backing off and adhere it on the background panel. The stamp set has the sentiment "You're a Badass," and I'm going to stamp that on the upper part right there with Versafine Onyx Black ink. Sorry about that. My husband is calling me to let me know he's coming home for lunch. After I stamp the sentiment, I'm going to adhere this panel on my card base. And my card base is 80-pound Nina Texture Specialty cardstock. I also die cut some hearts from red glitter paper using Concordant mixtape die set. And I will just scatter 3 of the hearts on the panel using glossy accent. For the inside of the card, I use the Mama Elephant brush stroke stamps again and use Distress Oxides to stamp the images on the panel. And I use another stamp from the set. The panel I use for the inside of my card is 65-pound white cardstock. After the stamping is done, I'm now ready to adhere this panel in the inside of my card. And my second card is finished. So we can't end this card video without using watercolor. So many of you knows that I love watercolors. And my panel is 140-pound Strathmore watercolor paper. And I'm using my T ruler here to add some lines on the paper. And I'm also using Sharpie Ultra Fine Point Permanent Pen. I'm going to stamp the shoes on the lines so it will look like the bond intended image is in her closet, or you can also say she's in a shoe store picking some shoes to buy or to wear. I think I used almost all of the shoes from the stamp set. I arranged them 5 in a row and on the shelves where the lines are. I arranged them first like this so it will be easy for me to ink them all up later, and with the help of my Stamp Perfect I can stamp them a few times to get good impression. I use Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide ink to stamp the images, and I'm going to emboss it with clear embossing powder and melt all the powder using my heat tool. After the embossing is done, I'm now ready to color the images. I use my quinacridone gold to color the background, and I'm thinking this is light under the shelves in the store or her closet. For the shoes, I just use my Zig Clean Color Wheel brush markers. I will leave you some music here while I'm coloring, and I will be back when the coloring is done. And again, I use the stitch rectangle die set to die cut the panel. I like the stitch and cleaner edges of the panel, that's why I'm always using these dies. I also die cut a vellum from the stitch oval die set that I have. I'm going to cut the excess oval here to perfectly align on the panel. And I'm going to use foam tape on the back of the bond intended image. And I'm going to adhere that image on top of the oval die cut. So I'm just aligning the image right here, and after I'm done with that, I'm going to use double-sided tape on the back of this image. You can also use glue, but I don't want the glue oozing out and showing on the vellum. That's why I use the double-sided tape. And my panel is ready to adhere on my card base. And my card base is 110-pound cardstock that I got from Michaels. For my sentiment, I used the Timeless Icon stamp set, and the sentiment says, "A girl should be two things, classy and fabulous," by Coco Chanel. I mounted the sentiment on a clear black, and I'm going to ink it up with Versamark ink and stamp it on this peach paper that I have in my stash, and I'm going to emboss it with Ranger gold embossing powder and melt all the powder using my heat tool. After I emboss the sentiment, I'm going to use my Fiskars trimmer to trim my sentiment that will go in front of my card. And I will just use my ATG gun to adhere this sentiment on my card. I have some small flowers that my friend gifted me last time, and these tiny flowers are perfect for decoration on the side of her bun hair. I adhere 3 of the tiny flowers using hot glue, and hot glue is good for these types of embellishments. After I adhere the flowers on her hair, I pull out my diamond stickles and just dab some of the stickles on the flowers. I also pull out my little things from Lucy's cards, Diamond Rainbow Brights, to add on each side of the sentiment. And I use glossy accent to add them on the card. For the inside of the card, I used Happy Birthday sentiment from the Tan wardrobe shoe stamp set, and I'm going to emboss this with gold embossing powder, and I also added 2 of these shoes on each side of the sentiment, and again I'm going to emboss them with gold embossing powder, and I will melt all the powder using my heat tool. And the last thing to do is adhere this panel in the inside of the card. And our cards are finished. I had so much fun making these cards. Please check out Cheryl's video for this month's collaboration challenge. As always, thank you so much for always liking, commenting, and subscribing to my channel. I really appreciate it. I hope you liked today's video tutorial and find some inspiration. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye.